Under different circumstances, I think that I would have made this less formal since we all got to know each other, but I'm practicing at the formal keynote because I wanted to get paid for my time and expertise. So thank you in advance. And I hope that we have a minute to just ask, is there anything missing? Is there anything that you were surprised about? Those are the impressions that I'm really looking for. So this is where we are. This is my book cover. I go by Mary Delia. So my goal for today is to expand your idea of what being single is. There's being single, and then there's building a solo. And 46% of US adults are single, which is a number that surprises people. And there's just some insights here about the different seasons of being solo, the phenomena that happen to people who are single, and some advice for how to be best at building your solo that I think you will find surprising. So I'm trying to expand your view of how 46% of the US population are living. So this is me. I worked for Kelly a lot, and I worked in the event space, and I worked for the NFL. I did 15 Super Bowls. I worked for Merrill Lynch. I could find your luggage. I was a journeyman, and I was born in 1972, and I never got married. And I had this big life, and I was really raised very traditionally. Find a husband, get married, have children. That's going to make you happy. And I believe in relationships, and I believe that there is happiness. I just feel that there's other paths that are available to us now. Because I worked for Singles Travel International for 10 years. I was a tour director. This is me tour directing. This is me with the captain of the Queen Mary. This is me with the guy who was on Love Boat. So that's right. We were targeted to people who were over 40 and passionate about travel. We were not for people to hook up. So I was all over the world, and I had this traditional background. Being single is supposed to be a club you're supposed to not want to join. And yet I had these singles who were having an amazing time, living big lives, single for very different reasons. And I always said, I'm gonna write a book. The pandemic came, and I did write a book. I have no dating advice. There are, warning, I have there's this many books on finding love, this many books on getting love, keeping love, recovering from love, finding the next love. There's this many books on being single, and I have written one of them. There are so few people tackling this topic. It's, that's right. So 30% of US households are one person living alone. 1 in 4 people born from 1981 to 1999 self-report that they will never marry. I believe that this is like a garden that's going to grow. There's a professor at the University of Colorado. He's writing a book called Solo Revolution, and he's backing it up with the data. And I think he's right. I think when I'm my mother's age, I'm gonna say, I wrote a book about it was okay to be single. And people will be like, why? No one needed that message. I think it could become like we have gay pride now. I think this is coming. The solo revolution is like a garden that's gonna grow. So in order to talk about being single, we have to talk about the duo. So the reason you get married, you want to have sex, it's the community norm, you want a pair bond, you have this cute wedding. This is why people get married, right? So now I'm going to share some expertise with you based on my knowledge from Netflix. So this is, the Flintstones, this is Bridgerton, and this is Mad Men. So it used to be that you only lived till you were 25, and you were going to be eaten by a tiger unless you created a community and got some more babies going. You had to pair up in order to survive. We moved along to Bridgerton, or the Gilded Age, and you getting married was the biggest thing that was ever going to happen to you. It was the only time you got a new dress. It was the men had all the power, and having a baby was how you got power as a woman. You didn't have any other options. You only lived to be 35, so marriage was incredibly important. And then when you talk about post-war, you talk about Mad Men, it was just the community norm. There weren't that many other options. You talk about women were backstabbing, women were home having babies. That's what everyone did. You went to high school, you met somebody, you only lived to be 50. So times have changed. You can have sex anytime you want. You don't need a man to have a baby. Single mom by choice. The divorce rate is 45%, which I mentioned several times, but I think it's valid to this discussion. These are the successful people who are living single. Oprah never married. The lifespan is 80 years and climbing, so maybe singlehood isn't, or maybe pairing up isn't going to be as appearing as it has in the past. Too many things have changed. Just like the iPhone changed everything, the one professor says we're working off old data. So it used to be, you went to Florida when you were 50, you were an old lady by yourself, you had an old aunt, you had the grandpa guy across the street who lived alone. Okay, now we have, I mean, from that one show, Sexy Kevin Costner, these ladies are in their 80s, they're having all kinds of, so popular culture is reflecting back to us that being single is changing. This is Shonda Rhimes, who wrote Grey's Anatomy. She is an incredibly successful single person, and she chose not to marry, and her book, The Year of Yes, is excellent. Any questions? Okay. So we're gonna talk about the different types of solo seasons and how sort of people get into a solo. And while we talk about each one of these seasons, I'm gonna communicate to you some of my value systems that I communicate in the book. So being single is your marital status. Choosing to build a solo is choosing to invest your time, your resources, your thoughtfulness on building a life for yourself. The good news is your client's always available. Your one size fits one. It's a DIY project. You have to build a solo that fits you, and only you can do that work. You're 100% of your relationship with yourself for the rest of your life. So any investment that you have in understanding yourself better and making yourself better will pay dividends no matter what your relationship status is. So I like to call this the starter solo. This is the age you get married. If you become an adult at 18 and you don't get married till you're 30, what's that stage called? I was with my nephew and he's 20. He's like, I'm not single. And I thought to myself, why does he not look forward to, he's got a girlfriend, why doesn't he say, oh, I'm in my solo stage? Why is it not, oh, I'm gonna move out of my parents' house, I'm gonna have a solo stage, I'm gonna get married in my late 20s or 30s. Why is that stage not about the solo? I'm not saying you can't date, I'm not saying you can't be learning lessons in relationships, but that time should be spent, in my opinion, focusing on yourself. It's the starter solo. I have an incredibly positive message. My book is positive. I believe it's great being single, but I do want to recognize that people are single for terrible, tragic, unexpected reason, and I call that the solo on standby. So what I'm talking about isn't necessarily relevant to someone who is newly widowed or something tragic, but here's this nice young lady, and her leg is broken, and it's healing, and that's the most important thing that she's doing. We have a person. But you can still enjoy your life, and you can still take some of your energy and say, I'm really gonna heal from this blow that life gave me, but I'm also going to have an eye on what my solo is going to be like. I know that I'm gonna heal, and I'm gonna have another stage, and it's gonna be my solo. So I do recognize that things are painful, but you can still have energy for the solo. This is the unexpected solo. Boy, you really thought you were gonna be married, you thought you were gonna be married forever, you thought it was gonna work out, and now you are surprised to be single. Maybe you're unhappy about it, maybe you're not happy about it, but it's not what you expected. And the concept here I'd like to talk about is, this is Italy, and this is Alaska. So if you planned a trip to Italy, and you said, I'm gonna have pasta, and I'm gonna go to Venice, and I can see it, and it's gonna be great, I'm gonna learn Italian, and then the plane touched down in Alaska, would you be like, well, this is terrible, I was supposed to go to Italy? No, you can find things that are great about Alaska. Just because it is unexpected doesn't mean that there aren't gifts in a solo for you. And this is, you have to train yourself, you have to coach yourself up on this, the unexpected solo. This is the non-starter solo. Sometimes it can feel like getting into a partnership is a type of graduation. Oh, I finally made it. I'm at the next stage. I'm with somebody. I can hang the art on the walls. Everybody's getting married and I'm not. Everyone's having this big experience and I'm not. There is a grief that comes with that, and that grief needs to be managed and recognized while you build your solo. But when you think about this, that's making your life about what's not in it. So as long as your solo lasts, you need to be making your life about what it is today, not what it could be with a couple, what's coming. Ask anybody's been married for a long time, what would you do if you could be single for a year? And they have an active answer. I call this the searching and settling solo. I want to keep somebody around. I don't want to be by myself. Everything I do, I'm trying to find somebody. I put all this energy into, what do I want? Am I attractive enough? Does he like me? What does this text mean? You can spend your time that way, but might very much regret it when you do find a partner. And it is valid to look for a partner, and that is a worthwhile part of your time. But how do you want it to be the center of your life, or do you want it to be the center of your life sometimes? And you can just get caught up in, I'm not enough, I'm just gonna look for somebody all the time. I believe that I am a family of one, and I have built my solo. It's one size fits one. You have to do it yourself, and you have, just the way a head of a family has to say, where are we gonna go on vacation? How are we gonna spend the money? Where are we gonna live? What are our standards gonna be? You need to ask all those questions of yourself, and the people around you should be supporting you. And it's just terrific you got your own house. This is terrific that you are going on vacation by yourself. That's a valid way to live as a family of one. I also have a additional keynote that's called, do you have a family of one within your family? And it's targeted to the old folks' homes around here, because they look for speakers, and talking about how if you're of the older generation and you're looking at your son or your daughter or your grandson or your granddaughter and saying, why aren't they married? Why are they single? I want to share the insights of what being solo is, so you can have a better relationship with the younger people in your family. Do you have a family of one within your family? Because I don't think it occurs to people. Next, I'm going to talk about just a little shortened version of how to be the best at being single. Whether or not you're single, this is a good message. So this is, you have to embrace the solo, which seems like one of those self-helpy things that you say. So I like to describe it by talking about light pollution. This is the city of Miami, very, very bright. And when you look up at Miami, you see the moon, terrific. But if you go out to sea, or you go out into nature, and it's dark and it's scary, you can't see anything. And then your eyes adjust, and you can see lights that you didn't even know were there. And that's, everyone's nodding, so this resonates with this crowd. That's what being single is. I don't know what your stars will be. I know what my stars are in my single life. I know what I love about being single, but you have to embrace the solo and say, I am single, and I'm gonna face this time with myself. I'm gonna make decisions about how I wanna spend my time and my money and my resources, and find out what my stars are. And this is hard and scary, but it can be done. Comparison is the thief of joy is a message that we all need. Do not compare the best of being in a couple, or the best of being in a perfect couple, with the worst part about being single. Oh, I can't believe I have to find a plumber and I don't know what to do. I bet if I had a partner, he would be a plumber. Ask 10 people who are married and whether or not their husband can do plumbing, and you'll have your answer on that. So this is very easy to do. My life wouldn't be like this if I were with a partner. I wouldn't have this problem if I were with a partner, and it is not true. I never liked Christmas. I talk about this in the book. I never liked Christmas. I'm sorry, Mom, I never liked Christmas. And some of us just don't. And I was like, I better be different with a partner. And it isn't. I don't like it. I like Halloween. So when we talk about the solo, we go back to those traditional values. Your first job as someone who is single is to make yourself happy. No one is standing in line to take care of you. How can I make myself happy? And then once you're happy, you should be selfless. That is, it's the two parts. There's a book called, Why You're Not Married, and there's a couple of chapters, and she talks about you can't carry your feelings around in a baby Bjorn. Just because you're the only person in your life, your feelings seem really big to you. And when you live within a family, you are forced to be selfless, you're forced to be giving, you're forced to put yourself second. As a soloist, that doesn't necessarily happen unless you choose. Your example of I became a guardian ad litem when I got divorced because I didn't want my life to be about my separation. I wanted it to be about someone else's beginning. It's an excellent example of I'm not going to focus. I'm going to make myself happy, and then but I'm going to have a focus outside of myself. It's incredibly important. And I believe that the traditional families, when they're talking about get married, have a partner, they're talking about being selfless, and that should be part of your solo journey. There's sort of a longing with being in a duo. I think it's marketing. I think it's easier to sell to two than it is to sell to one. And the story's easier, like get married and buy some stuff together. But feeling valid, having intimacy, feeling loved, being loving, this is not only for couples. You can have all of these things any day, anytime, just yourself. Reach out to someone. have an intimate conversation with someone, get beyond self. This is just not for couple land. This is readily and happily available as a soul fist. Okay, I'm gonna talk about some things that happen when you're single that you might not be aware of. The cocktail party question. So you're still single? You broke up. I never liked that guy. I saw that coming. Many a party has been ruined for soloists by being afraid of being asked about the life change, because people think the questioner's intent is, so what are you doing with yourself? And the most obvious thing to ask is like, when we were cavemen, have you found your other caveman? And it's more difficult to ask a nuanced question of what's new, how are you, what's happening in your life. So we who are talking to people who are single have to do better and know that whatever someone's partnership status is private. It is an injury you might not be aware of. It is not necessarily any of your business. If your intention is how you doing, then say something more specific. How's work? Do you want to talk about your love life? What's happening? It's not, so who are you dating is not the only thing you should be asking someone. We have bigger lives now. So the solution for the person who is solo, you have 3 choices. You can deflect, you can connect, or you can reject. Deflection sounds like, one frog closer to the prince. Do you have somebody for me? Or, I'm having a lot of nice dates. What are you doing? How's your relationship? That's a deflection. You can do that. Or, depending on who the person is, you can say, oh, I really am looking for someone and I'm struggling. Or, you know what, I broke up with somebody and I'm really turning over a new leaf. And that's connecting. Or you can say, I went on a great vacation. I bought a new house. You can talk about something else, and that's bringing you closer. They are asking to care about you, most likely. Or you can just reject this in general and be like, I'm gonna go get a drink. I'm gonna walk away. Thanks for asking. I'll talk to you later. If it's Thanksgiving, be like, have a biscuit. Let's keep moving. So this is doesn't she look nice? The partner pursuit paradigm. So this is, I'm gonna act it out for you. I'm standing at a party. I haven't said whether or not I'm dating anyone. I haven't said whether or not I'm looking for someone. And someone comes up to me and they go, oh, are you single? Oh yeah. Are you on the apps? You should be on the apps. You need to meet people. The pizza guy's not gonna date you. It's a numbers game. You gotta get out there. So I've done something wrong without even doing anything, and I should be maniacally pursuing a partner with this numbers game. That person goes away. I take a sip of my drink. Someone else comes up and they go, oh, you single? Well, you can't look. I mean, it happens when you least expect it. You probably have to love yourself enough. Or should I love yourself enough? So so you're wrong for looking, you're right for looking. It's awful. The very, very, very worst is the person who says, oh, you're single? When I met my husband. Because if you met your husband before 2007, when Match.com wasn't happening, you have no idea what is going on. Yeah. So the people who are asking we have to change our attitude about this. Dating is private, and it's fun to talk about dating. There are better ways to ask about it. But to assume that everyone's pursuit is to find someone, and to assume that you know someone well enough on how they should be pursuing a partner is no longer appropriate. Culture has to change. I don't really have some great comebacks for that. I was always just like, whoa. So this is solo decision fatigue. If you're by yourself, you have to make all the decisions for yourself, which is fatiguing. If you're in a couple, you have double the amount of time and effort and smarts to make all the decisions in your life. So the duo may have more resources, but for anyone who's newly single, going through decision fatigue and making all those decisions will result in all of your life's choices reflecting what you want. It will also give you self-reliance. You'll be able to say, I can do this. I can build a life that I want. So the hint here is, and I talked about this already, if you don't know how to buy Kelly was like, who bought your TV? I was like, I don't know, Jason. I wouldn't buy a TV. I have a friend who's an electronics guy. He does it. You can, if you're single, if you're smart, you think about the things that you're not so good at, and you think about people in your life that could be helpful. I had a fire in Chicago when I was in my mid-30s, and it was terrible. It was very significant. And I asked around my friends, I was like, well, who knows anything about a fire? And my one friend said, oh, my uncle's an arson investigator. I was like, oh, I know him from the barbecue. I go to your house every year. And I called him a few times in the process, and he was incredibly helpful and knowledgeable. And I would not have taken that step if I were in a partnership. I would have just tried to work it out with the other person. We'll just put our own smarts on this. So it was an advantage in that situation. I promise you, people are not what they post. I promise you. So this is the reality TV housewives. So something like 67% of the housewives are single. Really? So let's take it easy on housewives and what they are. And this is another reality TV. This is for a younger crowd a little bit. This is people who are successful. The only time that it's successful on reality TV is when the women choose. So don't watch The Bachelorette and think it's working out for everybody. Let's have a grain of salt when we watch that. So the word that I choose to use is the family of one is valid. And the numbers show that people are getting married later, people are staying single for different reasons, the households are staying single. It has definitely changed. Okay, so I have two quick topics, and I love to talk about weddings. So the wedding industry. I am an event planner. I love a wedding. I will go, invite me. I'm super happy for the percentage of people that have a happy marriage, but 45% of marriages fail. Why do we have, the wedding business is a $48 billion industry for 2.5 million weddings a year. That is the reason there is so much fairy tale and pressure, and you must, and get married, and it's your biggest day. It was your biggest day in Bridgerton times. It is no longer, you gotta have a lot of happy days. It can be a happy day, it does not have to be your only happy day. Keeping perspective on this is important, and we have to ask ourselves the question as a society, why are there so many rituals around an institution like marriage that has a 45% failure rate, and there are no rituals around being single or being newly single? There's no divorce party, there's no bachelorette for the divorce, there's no you bought your first house. Why have we chosen as a society not to get that happening? And I think that it could start happening in the next few decades. I love to talk, I know you guys work financial, so I wanted to put this in. So getting married and buying a house is very, very similar. It's a financial commitment, it's a legal commitment, it's your hopes and dreams, but the divorce rate is way higher than the foreclosure rate.
You got me at this slide. Right?
There's
speaking to
$28,000 is the average spend on a wedding. $10,000 is put into a new home, and
the profit.
Yeah, the profit is 50, 60, right. Post divorce, standard of living goes down 10 to 40% for each partner.
Yeah.
So I have only given this talk a few times, but like this guy was like, oh my God, don't get married. She's right. It is 40%. So terrible. So this is facts. This isn't, oh, I want you to feel good about being single. This is buy the house before you. So I have a lot of information about the solo social life in my book. And the three things that I talk about is the party of one. So that is you're going out and you're by yourself. And if you look around in the world, there are plenty of men and women going out by themselves. I think self-love is an incredibly comfortable place to go out by yourself. Yeah. Party for one is I'm spending my weekend by myself. I'm by myself in a hotel on a work trip. I'm going on vacation. Party for one. And then party beyond one is you're going to go out in the world to connect and have some sort of like interest with the people that you're going out with. Not necessarily to meet a partner, but to a similar interest. Party beyond one. And you have to be practical, you have to be grateful, you have to coach yourself up. I know that this is hard, but you can do it, and there are tricks to it. When you go out to dinner by yourself, don't go on February 14th at 6. Maybe go out to breakfast, maybe go out for a late lunch. You can ease yourself into it. And for any of these things, if you're doing something that you really love and care about and are excited about, it doesn't matter the company. So take the focus off, I should be with a person, and put it on, I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm gonna have fun doing what I wanna do. Time with yourself is as valuable as time spent with family and friends. So any of that energy that you would put into, what am I gonna wear, what are we gonna eat, what are we gonna do, you should be putting that same energy into your own self and your own weekends, your own time. That's it. I was a little fast. How'd I do, Kylie?
Thanks, Jeff. wonderful. Wow. Thank you.
I got a wow from Kat. That was pretty good.
That was